Well, hello, everybody. We are just now live, and as you can see, I am holding a guitar in my hand. I know about four chords, and I'm going to sing some worship songs. No, that's not true, actually. I'm not going to do that because that would be really bad. But I have this guitar out because it illustrates something that I am doing right now. I've been learning guitar for a little while now, and I intend to, in the middle of this shutdown, keep playing around on it and trying to get a little bit better at it. And just thought I'd bring that up because I know a lot of folks are going to be, let's say, a little bit bored over the next little while with no school or anything else going on. And people can get kind of stir crazy and all that good stuff. People can get lonely. People can get isolated, bored, depressed, all of those horrible, nasty things. And I thought I'd just give some practical advice about that. It helps to sit down and you just watch Netflix all day or scroll through Snapchat or Instagram or whatever else. That'll leave you feeling kind of crummy, kind of feeling like, well, I just wasted an entire day. But if you do something productive, like if you actually try to pick up a skill, try to play an instrument, try to read a book, try to practice something that you can actually get good at, it makes you feel accomplished when you do that. And so that's just something that kind of helps me deal with, I guess, slow periods in life when there's not a whole lot going on. Try to pick up a skill, try to learn to do something, push yourself to sing, to play, to draw something, to paint something, to read a book, to write something, do something creative with yourself. And I really think it'll be a lot better. So I can see we've already got somebody that has joined in with us today. I don't know. Oh, two people. How nice. I don't know who these people are, but you're here. I'm out on a Wednesday night to hear us. So as you can see, I'm at the church building right now, my office. There are not really any cool signs up in this office, but there is, you can see in the corner of my whiteboard right there, a sign that says "Hey" on camera, but I just ratted her out. So Kara is here. If you want to say hey to Kara, you can type it in the chat over there, and we'll let people. I'll tell her that you said hey.
My goal over the break is to learn how to make food that Eli will like.
Okay, there you go. You heard it from her. If you want, she wants to make food that I will actually like. Let the record just state that I do like what she cooks. I tell her all the time that I like what she cooks. I have never really complained about what she cooks. If I do complain about what she cooks, I couch it in a compliment so she doesn't know that I'm complaining, and it helps me get what I want in a very sneaky kind of way. So I'm sneaky like that. But anyways. Well, thank y'all so much for coming out and being a part of this tonight. It really does mean a lot to me to have folks who will not just watch the recording later on, but who will actually join in live with us. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate y'all being a part of this and joining us. It's going to be a tricky little time that we're navigating through. Uncharted territory for our church for sure. Never seen anything like this happen. Most of the older folks that I know also say that they've never seen anything like this. But I do know this: God is still good in the midst of all of this chaos, and He's going to bring us through this. He's going to look after us. He's going to take care of us, and I'm confident that I'm not worried. When I am worried, I pray, and that makes me feel a lot better. And I think that's good advice for anybody. So, Saints, we've been walking through the story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. And I've kind of been breaking it up into littler pieces, which I've taught this story before, but I've always taught it as one big piece because, you do have to see the whole thing to get it. But this is Emily for the situation that we're in right now. So I hope that it encourages you to hear from it. I hope it blesses you as we read it. So I'm going to pick up right where we left off last time in verse 28. If you need a little review, at this point in the story, Lazarus is still dead. Jesus has decided to go to Judea to raise him from the dead. That is a death trap for Jesus. Jesus is going to save Lazarus at the expense of his life, and he knows that. And his disciples are afraid of that too. And so he's going there. He's met with people who kind of trust him and kind of believe with him, but don't expect him to raise the dead. This is one of the most emotional portraits of Jesus in the whole Bible. And this is a very beautiful story for that precise reason. So I want y'all to check out and see what's happening. It says in verse 28, having said this, she went back and called her sister Mary, saying in private, the teacher is here and is calling for you. As soon as Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. The Jews who were with her in the house consoling her saw that Mary got up quickly and went out. At this point in the story. Verse 33, when Jesus saw her crying, and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. Where have you put him? He asked. Lord, they told him, come and see. Jesus wept. So the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, couldn't he who opened the blind man, us deeply moved again, came to the tomb? Now, this is an interesting story to me because Jesus comes up on, again, what is a chaotic scene. It's a funeral. It's what you would expect. You expect crying, you expect grief, you expect confusion, you expect people to be high-strung emotionally. And I think this is a good time to talk about our emotions because to a certain extent, we are not in control of our emotions. Certain things will make you feel certain ways. If you go to a funeral, like we have in this story, you will probably be sad. Even feel in the same way in this pandemic that we're facing, it's hard not to feel anxious. It's not hard not to feel a little bit scared because it's just how we respond to the situation. We can't help it. It's just how we feel. But to a certain extent, we can control if funerals make us feel sad. What we do is we avoid funerals. And we've gotten very good at that. We can sort of control our emotions by limiting what we see and what we care about. And so we can stop ourselves from feeling bad by cutting ourselves off from people who are in a bad situation. We ignore their condition, we ignore how they may treat us. Death, being around the dying makes us feel bad, makes us feel sad, makes us grieve, can make us anxious about our own lives. And so the way that we control that is we hide from it. We blind our eyes to it. We don't look at it. We don't want to see it. But at some point, you can only ignore it for so long. I think it's interesting. And if I was to kind of distill down what I think is so cool about this part of the story, and probably my very favorite part of this whole story overall, is that Jesus does not ignore this funeral. Jesus does not hide from the absolute very worst moment that people are going through. So I've been paying attention to this story and some of the interesting parts of it that I think need a little bit of explanation. There's some questions that we should ask. We notice, for example, some very emotional portraits of Jesus. For example, when Mary comes to him crying, it says that Jesus, in my translation, says he was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. Now, the obvious question to ask is, well, why did he feel that way? What exactly was he feeling? And that might seem kind of simple. Oh, well, he must have been upset because Mary was upset. I did a little digging into this. It's not that simple. Is that Jesus snorted. So it's actually used to describe the sound a horse makes. You know, a horse gets upset and it snorts really loud. Well, that sort of is also, they also use that same word to describe when a person becomes angry or upset. That's what that word always means in the Greek language. It's what it always meant in Jesus's day. And so it almost sounds as though Jesus is getting angry, that Jesus, snorted, like he would, he became visibly upset over something, deeply moved. He was troubled, which means that like something else did it to him. In the Greek, neither of those verbs are passive. They're active. It says that Jesus snorted, which is snorted in his spirit, it says, became upset in his spirit, whatever that might mean. He did it. He was the person that initiated it. He's the one that caused it, and that he troubled himself is what it literally says. He troubled himself, which is again, that's a weird thing to think. Why is Jesus doing this? What is the significance of that? Why didn't it just say that Jesus's feelings and all of this? Well, I don't think that Jesus is just angry at them, because in the very next verse, it says that Jesus wept. I don't think that's what he's angry about. But I do think that it's not merely that Jesus is just sad for Mary or sad for the people. I don't think that that really gets at what's going on. I think that what's going on for Jesus in this passage, what he's doing, is he is actively in control of what he's feeling and experiencing as he goes through this. Jesus is not subject to uncontrollable emotions in the same way that we are. He's in control of his own emotions. He's God, he's God in the flesh. But yet, of his own choice and of his own free will, he's entering into this very, very dark moment, a funeral of all things, and choosing to feel Jesus upset. Why was Jesus angry? Like, where are these emotions coming from? What causes them? Is he weeping because he doesn't know that Lazarus is going to? I think that it's a complicated. I think it's a complicated thing. He walks into a complicated scene. He walks into a scene where people are distressed. Weeping in this culture is a very public thing. People are probably wailing and crying out loud. People have changed their clothes. They put on dark, sullen clothes. They're fasting probably. It's a very visible thing. So he comes onto the scene and sees all this. He sees some people that are struggling to believe in him. And further, he's around people. All of this stuff happening. There's all this stuff going on. And I think that what Jesus is doing, I think that what he's feeling in this moment, angry that sin has brought this pain and suffering in the world. And he is determined in himself to defeat that enemy. As he goes to the tomb, it says that Jesus wept. Jesus was evident. Now, he knows that Lazarus is about to be raised from the dead. So he knows that this is going to have a happy ending. But he weeps anyways because he can see the pain and the suffering of his people. Worth dwelling on and meditating on for a long, long time. Very beginning, John said, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. That is, Jesus was God, and the Word became flesh. When we see Jesus, we see God. That means that God weeps. People will say a lot of things about God in the midst of the coronavirus wouldn't have caused this to happen. Lord, if you had been here, there wouldn't be a pandemic on the earth right now. Lord, if you had been here, my mom or dad would still have a job. And we can say all of those things. And it can become so easy for us to accuse God of not caring because we don't see him at work. We don't realize what he's up to, and we can't see or understand those things. But what we see in Jesus is that in the midst of our confusion and in the midst of our pain, God is not unsympathetic. God is not uncaring. But God cares about his people to the point that anything about us. But because of his great love, he is moved. You need to know God does care. God weeps over you. We don't have a high priest who's unable to sympathize with what we go through. Jesus is able to sympathize with us. And that's a very good thing for us. Now, these people don't know what's about to happen. Jesus is comforting, I guess, to have a shoulder to cry on. But the good thing about Jesus is that Jesus is also more than just a shoulder to cry on. Not only is he moved for us in the middle of our pain, but he is actually able to do something about the pain. Because the good news of this story is that a resurrection is coming. Lazarus will be raised from the dead. And that's great news. And so you're not this at all. But one way or another, God's going to work it out. You may not see it in this lifetime, worst case scenario, but God will work it out. God will do right by his believers. God will do it. As surely as Jesus got up out of that grave, God will do it. In the meantime, to crawl in his lap when we cry. He's there for you, and he cares for you, and he loves you. Whatever emotions you might be dealing with right now, whether it's loneliness, depression, isolation, guilt, whatever, take it up with God because he cares for you. That wraps up what I have to say tonight. I look forward to doing this on all of our live streams. Tell your friends about it. Get the word out. I hope that we can do a little bit of ministry even while we can't meet. So be sure to tell other folks, and I will see you again on Sunday night. Thank y'all.